what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. On today's show, we're talking about a fun thought experiment. It's a good Monday morning conversation. And that's just to say, if you in the audience, as well as us, we'll be talking about, and everybody who's joining us in the live chat, if you're building your first AI business, who's the plus one you're bringing to your party? Who's the one other human that you feel you need to round out your team of two, plus every single AI tool you feel like you would need access to? And what for this thought experiment, we'll just open up the gate and say it's not really about whether you have the upstart capital for the $200 pro plan. You just have AI as that third multi-component of your business. So that begs the question, based on your strengths and weaknesses, based on what you're trying to ultimately achieve with this first business, who's your plus one? Who do you bring into that vital inner circle? Not necessarily to be a 1 billion valuation or, sell it, whatever, but to grow and do as much as you can with your business. So that's what we're talking about today. Today is the Daily AI, or this is the Daily AI show. Today is April 21st, 2025. Hope everybody who was celebrating had a restful and enjoyable Easter weekend. We're back today. It's not a holiday in the States, so we'll be rocking and rolling the show today. With me is Junmi, Beth, Andy, and Brian. And guys, I think this is a fun one. I've done a bit of research. Me and Perplexity had some deep thoughts by Jack Handy, only it was Perplexity. And we went back and forth. And I got to tell you, not only do I feel confident that I know who I would bring as my plus one, I actually went as far and found her. So not that she would agree, but this is a real person who really exists. And
come on, no, Amanda's going to agree. Trust me.
I mean, listen, if Amanda thought this was the right person for a strategic business initiative, she'd be 100% on board. Yes, obviously for business is what I'm talking about. Nothing else. So, let's get into that later. But that's something that I kind of went through, and I was like, well, who is this person? Like, we've identified the role. Who's the person? But let's start before we get into like maybe what are all individuals. Let's talk about some of the things that we collectively, you guys individually rather, but like, let's just have a conversation about what are some of the things you felt like you needed to think about in terms of like role, their job criteria, where they maybe have strengths, where you necessarily have weaknesses or gaps. Like, that's how I sort of approached it first, by saying like, well, this is what I'm good at. I do this, and this. However, I'm awful at this, and this, either because I just don't care for it or I don't want to be. And so there's some gaps in there where I feel like, oh, I would definitely need some shoring up over here, because it's just not my strength. And although I could fake it for a while, I think it would be at the detriment of the growth of the company. So how did you guys think about it as you were thinking about this thought experiment today?
I did the same thing. So looking at sort of the Shopify, which other companies have done, but sort of the Shopify approach is, all right, so when I think about the things that need to be done, what can't be done by an AI, right? Like I need to prove to myself that an AI literally can't do that. And so I ended up with just the specific and not very many things that needed a human in the room, shaking hand, right? Building that kind of trust-based rapport that happens between people who can see each other. And then that can move into an online situation for a bunch of other kind of like planning sessions or those kinds of things. So I was really pulling forward like who do, and I did a little bit of my friend group too, or people group, like let's audition people to be that role. But yeah, that like I want somebody who just like you drop them in the middle of nowhere and they're the mayor of the town within 5 days. Like that's who I want.
Yeah, I do. My brother-in-law who just visited could fill that role if that was the main goal, mayor of the town. My brother-in-law, who's been career Army, but he has that personality, and he's the guy you want to be on like a cruise ship with, because you're pretty sure if you're standing next to him, that orb is going to be good for you, and you're going to have a good time in the ship, because he will also be the one doing the breakdancing battle in the middle of the floor. When it comes time for that, or the belly flop contest, that's your guy, So anyway, you said mayor of the town. I immediately thought of my brother-in-law, Steve Kane. So anyway, but you mentioned one thing that I thought of too, which was like a clear thing to look at. And Jimmy or Andy, what do you guys think of this too? Like, you have to think far enough in the future and go, even if it's not something AI can do today for this role, this +1, is it something that I think AI might be able to absorb in the near future? For instance, 3 or 4 years ago, you might have said, I need a coder. And today you would be probably, if that was your really focus, I'm not knocking on coders. There's some wonderful people who are super, super talented there. I'm just saying that as a +1, if I had done that 3 years ago, and I didn't have maybe the foresight to see that AI was going to be able to get very, very good at coding, top 10, top 5, top 2% of all coders worldwide at that level, that's a miss maybe on my side, because now AI has absorbed that. So I really tried to think about, like, what are the types of skill sets that both complement me, but also don't think AI is going to be able to do, or not at the level of that. So I was thinking about that too. But Jimmy or Andy, what did you guys sort of factor that into when you were thinking about this?
Well, I found this exercise to be really interesting. And let me just say that my first, I'm going to answer your question, because I did factor that into it, because my initial hunch was that, coding agents can do all the other agents, and so I don't really need a CTO. What I really thought I needed was somebody who was going to have the time and attention and inclination to be the business development / sales executive, who's going to do most of the interactions, using a better personality than my own, to develop relationships especially for adding new clients to this highly automated platform that is imagined, that's going to be run by multiple agents. That was my hunch, but I changed my mind after some conversation with Perplexity about this one. And so what the end game of this development and operations cycle is for this new business is there's going to be on the order of 10 different functional expert agents. And what you really need to have is, if you're only going to have one other person, you need to have someone other than yourself to take at least 5 of those. And there's a logical separation of the kinds of functions that you could divide across 2 individuals. But that individual that I would bring on right away, because it's important to the development process, is going to be an equally or probably superior technical co-founder who can really both build and articulate agents, but also manage them on an ongoing basis, because they're going to have to be refined in response to customer requests, and they're going to need to be monitored, with a technical understanding, not just, you're not going to be able to call up the special guy on Upwork, who's going to, come in and fix your agents. So I ended up with the idea of clearly a CTO kind of person, which is very similar to how I would approach it back in the day when I was conceiving of an idea and I needed to develop it. My very first step was to try to find somebody who was going to be the head of engineering, at least a VP of engineering, and or a CTO with strategic thinking about what the architecture and what the ultimate set of features and functions of our whole service platform would be. And I think it's the same thing today. But the end game is different. Instead of having a team of engineers, they're going to have a team of agents. They're going to have, side by side with me, are going to be building those agents and setting them up in their cross interactions. And then probably I'm going to be begging for someone to step in and also do the business development role. But the very first person, and if I have to live with just 2, it's going to be a CTO co-founder.
I love that idea, Andy, because I didn't think of that. By the way, Carl joined us as well. Welcome, Carl. The first thing you said when you said, well, I pivoted, was span of control. And I love that you did it, because I didn't think that way, but I think that's really, really brilliant, which is the idea of, well, firefighting, but not just firefighting. You could do a sales too, or anything else. Your typical span of control is going to be somewhere between like 3 and 8 other people. And so if you look at a military or a paramilitary organization, you will often find that there is essentially one person in charge of about 3 to 8 people. That doesn't always hold true. Sometimes that's true or not. But the idea of span of control, that beyond that, human to human, I'm not taking AI into this, that it can be difficult to have, to still be able to move forward if you break too far past that 100 people. And I'm talking about direct reports, right? Like you wouldn't have 100 people direct reporting to one person. It would be untenable, right? So, but I love that you just took the idea of this AI agent and you said, well, that's still an expert in my organization, human or not, it doesn't matter. It's still an expert. It still needs to have some sort of span of control. So if I think I'm going to have 10 experts, then I need to divide this to ensure that I don't have to personally manage 10 and have 10 experts, AI experts, reporting to me directly. Although this other person might be doing this really fundamental thing, this job role for me, that's too much on my plate to manage those 10. I think it's kind of genius. I wouldn't have thought of that. That it did. And Jimmy, we haven't asked you, and Carl, you joined too. But Jimmy, did you think in that role too, as far as like a span of control?
So the way I looked at this, I guess, thought experiment as a whole is I wanted to look at it holistically first.
Mhm.
So in my mind, I had to define what we meant by AI business, right? So I landed on AI first, as opposed to a business about AI. so I wanted to look at it and go, okay, so what makes an AI first business, whatever it's going to be. And so I think what's the most important factor when it came to looking for what I wanted my +1 to be and what kind of roles they wanted to fill. And to answer your question about the span of control, I try to lean away from traditional hierarchies.
Mm.
So some of the prevailing new or alternative hierarchies are now more spoken wheel and clusters, cells kind of thing, to limit the amount of siloing and things like that. So yes, in terms of span of control, yes, that's going to be a factor, because you want to be able to have those things to be a little more autonomous, right? Whether it's an agent that fulfills that expertise, or just have a way to where your touch point is minimized, what your lift is as an individual, right? Because what we're trying to do here is what kind of lift in an overall business can be accomplished by an AI. Give it agentic ability, give it decision making, those kinds of things. So when I looked at it, I was like, okay, we're going to go AI first business. We're going to break down what I need the AI to do for me. We've talked about the $1 billion evaluation. How can I actually accomplish that? So whatever the idea of the business is, whatever that core business is, I want to build it so it can use the abilities of AI.
Mhm.
And that's the way I wanted to approach it, as opposed to what, where could AI fill in, right? So what can I build with AI? What are the capabilities of AI? Because it's always going to get better. Can it, what can it do for me, I guess? So when I looked at who my +1 was going to be, I realized that I didn't necessarily need a single person. So the role of the additional +1 is to be the other side of the coin. You're on one side, they're on the other side. You want someone who can support any weaknesses, fill in any gaps that you might not have. And that's great thinking. But I wanted to be able to minimize as much of that as possible. So I thought I went along the idea of fraction, or fractionalized
Mm.
roles, right? So I need their expertise to fill in the gaps or the knowledge base that I don't have, and that what my AI people will need, right? So I don't need a COO all the time. I don't need a CFO all the time. And these are traditional roles as well. And sort of like what Andy was talking about is having that technical role to be able to fill in those gaps. It would be the same thing for me, because what I'd like to do is get a point to again, back to that idea of one person, $1 billion evaluation, is if I can have all of the paths and my AI personas, my AI roles, bolstered by a fractional position person to fill in those gaps until I get them up and running and myself up and running, then I should be able to run it all by myself. You know, even with that span of control, is like, okay, well, if I only need 5 spokes, right? So I'm talking to just 5, and then those 5 are orchestrating and handling everything else, because they're being built and informed by those fractional roles. Then I can let them go, right? And they just check in with me for ultimate high level decisions and things like that. Admittedly, there's a lot of technical details that need to be worked out, and we're talking about monitoring, and we're talking about logging and error correction, and having the ability and all those processes in place. But those can be worked out. That's just tedious, not hard.
Yeah. That's a good way to think about it. I mean, the fractional side of it, I wouldn't have thought of that either. You know, Carl, you joined us a few minutes in, but you know, general idea here. I know you 0 to 60.ai already is a company you're in, but put that aside for a second. If you were, and maybe it is your business partner right now, I don't know, but if you were going to start up a net new AI business, whatever you want, SaaS, doesn't matter, it could be physical products or whatever, and you have to just bring one plus one to the business, plus unlimited AI, however you see that. How do you go about thinking? We've already talked about a little bit. I think as you came in, we were talking about like sort of ensuring that it's future proof towards AI. Like maybe a high tech coder isn't going to necessarily be your plus one, because those roles, that role might be able to be handled now by AI or whatever the case may be. So how did you think about it? If you looked at this thought experiment, how did you think about it? And I mean, obviously use some of your actual experience with 0 to 60.ai, maybe as you did this, because how many are there? 2 total full-time? It's you and a co-founder, correct?
We have like 6 people because we have like devs on their team too.
Are they all
So
full-time as well?
no, but
How many do you have? 2
that doesn't
full-time?
matter.
Is it you and your
Yeah,
co-founder?
3
Okay.
full-time. Yeah.
3 full-time. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, how did you sort of think about this thought experiment?
The only thing that I was thinking about that would make the difference, and it depends on what I've learned a lot from our business is, and it's a little unique because I'm not trying to target everyone online. Like we literally go to offices and sit with people and do discoveries in person. So if I wanted to do this on like have a bigger, like I guess more reach outside of that, then I think what I would still honestly, my business partners like my co-founder is like so instrumental in all of this due to the fact of literally business development, like pure business development. And it's different because this person can literally connects us with like all the CEOs, all of them, because he knows them all. And then from there, we get the referrals and we branch out and so on. It's kind of hard to start something purely scratch and try to get customers with whatever business you're running. So whether you have, I don't know, whatever the technical aspect, I'm sure the AI could cover. there was a really good post I saw yesterday. It's AI covers how and what, like, can build it out, but like it's sort of like you have to figure out what you're gonna build, or sorry, it can figure out how to do it, and there's a third one that I forgot. Anyway, but you have to kind of figure out what you're trying to do, but then it's still your responsibility to reach customers. And people would say, "Oh, I can get AI to reach my customers." Like, you can, but well, like just from my learnings, that face to face can't be beat. It can't be beat because our close rate in person significantly higher than anything online. Like
Yeah.
it's not even close. I would challenge anyone to go after us purely online and be like, "Okay, you present to these executives on Zoom, I'll present in person. I bet you I can close better than you, like 99% of the time." Just because there's something about that personal
Yeah.
connection,
Being in the room.
being there,
Yeah.
shaking the person's hand, and coming back and saying, "Hey, we're going to talk to all your employees," and they can just, I don't know how it's very, very difficult to.
Well, you're pointing to something that's uniquely human, right? And
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of AI that helps with this. There's going to be a lot of AI that helps people be prepared in the room almost instantaneously with live data. I
Yeah.
mean, we can probably I just saw an amazing TED talk with Google and what they're doing with their lenses, and everything that was happening on the TED talk stage was happening live. Everything from translation to, she had looked at a bookshelf and it remembered what book was on the bookshelf. It remembered where she had last put her key fob. It remember, you know what I mean? And like these things were happening live, right? It's a cool TED talk. You guys should go check it out if you haven't. It was more like a sponsored demo, which was less TED and more like product thing. But anyway, my point to it is she was just wearing glasses, like much like what Andy has on right now. And she had a heads up display, and you can imagine now a room full of people who have this ability. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely doesn't still, even though people might have these heads up displays and have instantaneous knowledge. Oh, Carl just said this word. Or I'll use Andy. Andy just said this word and I don't know what it is. And I want to discreetly get caught up on whatever big word Andy just used in the room, but I want to do it discreetly. Is there a way for me to do that? And continue the conversation, so I feel, I feel educated
Smart.
to continue that.
Smart.
But all that's smart. But all of that, right? Carl, still doesn't replace being in the room. You might have smarter humans in the room, but there's still going to be something about the handshake, and AI doesn't have it solved and probably would not have. That's a human to human connection. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you. That's like a huge part of it. And it's similar to where I said at the very top of the show before you came in that I went as far as to define the role and then actually try to go find somebody. And I said as a teaser at the top, I said, actually found somebody that I think would be, on paper, obviously, might be a good counterpart to me in terms of a business. So you guys have said a lot of the same things I have, so I won't rehash too much. But the role that I actually found, just based on me, anybody that's watched this show for a while, you guys obviously on the show with me, you know my personality at this point. I can get in the clouds very quickly. I have big ideas. I like to stay there. It's fun for me. It's not super practical all the time, but I've always said that like the perfect job for me is that I just walk in as a consultant. I give that business $10 million ideas. They standing ovation me, and I walk back out the door and I go, great, good luck. Tell me in 6 months how that all went with my $1 million ideas. And they love to pay me. And then I just go on to the next company and I tell them all the great ideas they're missing. Right. So that's where I like to live, but it's not super functional as far as like building a business. I need somebody who brings me back, who's grounded. And also, Carl, you pointed at something that I definitely thought I needed, which was somebody that had the ability to go build ecosystems, that go build connections, was good at that, had experience in that area, because it's just not something inherently I do have experience in, nor do I mean, I love human-human interaction. I love being around people. I am an extrovert, but I don't have the experience. Not that I couldn't, I don't have the experience to maybe go build these diverse connections and make the right connections, kind of like you were saying, Carl. So the role that as Perplexity named it was partnership and ecosystem builder. What they do, they forge deep strategic partnerships with other companies, organizations, and communities, negotiate complex deals, alliances, integrations that require trust, long-term vision. I should say, by the way, I had it use one of the examples it brought to me as just sort of something to frame this around. And that was a SaaS idea about ethics in AI and doing a certification around that, because it said ethics in AI will grow to a $7 billion business potential by like 2027 or something like that. And so I said, okay, we'll just grab that idea just to anchor this a little bit. So if you hear some of the things about like ethics or something, that's why that's coming into it. Why they're hard to replace. High stakes negotiation, trust building, navigating organizational politics are deeply human and resistant to automation. AI can assist with research and outreach, but the subtle art of partnership, reading a room, finding mutual wins, and building trust remains human. So that was a lot of what they said. And then I said, okay, well, how does this look like? Because I don't want this person to be replaced. Like, what would their role be as the company grows? So then it said, okay, for that role, early startup, 0 to 1 year, less than 10 customers. Their key responsibilities are things like niche alliance cultivation, onboarding 3 to 5 strategic anchor partners, ecosystem building, creating joint case studies of partnerships, such as how Partner X reduced algorithmic bias by 40% using our certification. Trust infrastructure development, designing a partner scoring system to evaluate potential collaborations, alignment with your principles. And then it gives some success. Then as we get into growth stage, 10 to 100 customers, vertical market expansion, revenue generating partnerships, ecosystem governance. There's some metrics there, such as 30% of revenue from partner channels, so on and so forth. Then 3 to 5 years, we're plus 100 customers. Ecosystem monetization and anti-fragility building, which would be create a decentralized partner network using blockchain to immutably track certification compliance across supply chains. Okay, so that's sort of like, and I thought as I read through these one by one, I thought, yeah, no, that seems right for somebody that I would want to work side by side with, given that, maybe like Andy's saying, we would have a span of control over agents, although I didn't initially think that way. That makes sense to me. So then I said, tell me a few people. Tell me a few people that you think would fall into this. And I said, provide both men and women. But I will tell you, this is just a me thing. I am much more likely, just given everything in my career, I am much more likely to be successful working with a female co-founder, +1 partner, or whatever, professionally, obviously, I mean. But that is my history. Like, I have always done better when my superiors, no shame to my current boss, Jake, but I've always done better when my superiors have been female leaders and stuff like that. For whatever that is, however I was brought up, whatever social interactions and all those kind of things, I've always been that guy that had a lot of female friends as much as I did male friends and stuff. And so that probably makes sense to me. So not to cut out 50% of the opportunities of the world, but if I'm being honest, I mean, just truly honest, it's probably going to be a female leader in one of these areas. So one of the names that brought up was Fei Li. Well, I'm not getting Fei Li. Fei Li is amazing, and she's a CEO and founder, and I need somebody that's probably not sitting in a current CEO role. I'm not saying that there couldn't be a branch off or something, but Fei Li's building her own things, and she's truly amazing. We've talked about her on the company.
You
before.
did say you're a pie in the sky thinker, so shoot for the moon.
Well, I think she's sort of like, listen. Do I want to start a company with Fei Li? Sure, I do. But like, is that
well,
possible based on what she's doing? I don't know.
So it brings up a good topic, right? Because are we just talking about this from our perspective, or are we finding someone who also wants to find us? Because for me, the Fei Li wouldn't pass that test,
Yes,
right?
I agree
Like,
with you. I agree
that's
with you.
interesting.
Yeah. So I'll bring up the person. It was just funny because like someday I feel like at some point we should just interview her on the show. But then that's just a weird topic of like, Brian picked you. Like, wait, what? That's like, this seems like there's a lot of pre-context that would have to be discussed about this show because it gets creepy quick, I think.
The creep factor is definitely a risk here.
A risk.
Absolutely.
But here's my point to it. I mean, if you look at what Leslie Vitrono Hubit has done and what her track record is, she's currently the global IT channel chief at Schneider Electric. But she came up in search result out of perplexity. I didn't have time to go dig deep into everybody, but I'm trying to bring her up here on the screen. Here we go. But she's a 15-year Schneider Electric veteran who was previously director of global IT channel strategy and innovation. And she talks about like how they've grown their partnership and stuff like that, partner focus. Anyway, I won't get into it or whatever, but doesn't mean it would work, right? It's just like, oh, I was curious to put like one person, Greg knows her. That's awesome if you really
already
do,
1 degree of separation.
right?
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Maybe don't bring this to her, or maybe show her the whole show is what I would say. Watch the whole show, Leslie. don't clip it and be like, just come in where Brian starts talking. That's not what I need right now. I'm not looking for that kind of reaction. So anyway, I just thought it would be fun. I thought it like, oh well, what if this was? What if I had a really good idea? And I was like, I don't know. I need people to start talking to that might be interested in this. She's not currently, although she holds a very high title as the VP of Global IT Channel Ecosystem. She's not currently running her own company. She's not currently a CEO. And so back to your point, Beth, like you probably have to meet people who are maybe ready to make a leap of faith on a new idea. I'm not saying she would or wouldn't. But anyway, that's where my thought experiment ended, was like, how far can I go? And I think it's fun because it kind of does make me think about like, who's that person that I would want to be working, in the trenches with, but also doing it in a way that is looking forward towards AI and saying, well, where can AI also fill in a lot of gaps? Also, I thought it was important to find somebody who is already working deeply in AI in their own industry, because what I wouldn't want to do is have to start somebody from scratch, even if they felt like the right solution, but they just had not been doing anything with AI over the last 3 years. I feel like that would be a hard hill to climb from a dead stop. So that was important.
Yeah. So Leslie may well be a really ideal partner for you. And I think that depends largely on the scale and potential of the idea that you bring to her.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, you could pull her away from something like that. She may be tired of the corporate world. Maybe 15 years at any one company is enough for her. And she's got a pretty nice nest egg that she's built as a result of being a senior level executive at a public company. And so I say go for it. But we don't know what your idea is yet. So I wanted to shift over to a couple of points about what kind of businesses are kind of ideal for this 2-person startup. But before I do, I wanted to just circle back to Junmi's, I think, somewhat inflated expectation that he can manage all of that with no consequences to his health. Okay. Because remember that when you start a business and you have it running and it's operating, it's like being in retail. The doors have to open every morning. And when do you take a break? When can you actually, if you're the only human in the loop, when can you actually take a vacation? So I think there's, again, with respect to both span of control and also personal freedoms, there's a need to have other humans associated with this project. And so I encourage you to at least find someone, even if it's a fractional someone, who can reliably take on, because sometimes fractional CFOs or whatever, hey, I've got other clients. I can't get to that until next Friday. But I'm talking about real-time 24-hour operations of, say, an e-commerce business or some other business that's operating around the clock. You need some other people.
100%. I think I'll jump on there.
I gotta push back. A little bit. All right. So the point is to minimize the amount of lift that you do and have that lift by AI. Is it there right now? Probably not. But that's the idea for the AI powered business or the AI first business, right? Is to be able to fulfill those roles. So that those kinds of processes are in place. And this is where the checks and the balances all come in and whatnot. So the way I look at it is I'm building up those processes so that I don't have to do them myself, right? Because you want to move yourself from founder idea person to your team of implementers, so that you just check in with the implementers every so often on your schedule. Now, is that going to take a lot of development? Absolutely. But that is the intent and the goal, because who wouldn't only want to work 2 hours a day? I'm just saying.
And listen, I think that's a solid point too, Jimmy. Like I think that's a solid point. And I just want to call that out really quick before we go back over to Carl. Knowing what you want to get out of this, I think you just kind of nailed it. It's important. If you really want to build the business and work 2 hours a week, knowing that you might have to invest multiple weeks of 40 to 60 that are then going to come down to 30, then 20, then 10, then 2, then that's exactly what you should be going after, right? The last thing you want to do is build yourself a jail, that you can no longer get out of. I can't even tell you how many businesses, as small business owners that I've met. CrossFit was a close one, but I got out, where it was increasingly feeling like I had built myself a jail of my own doing. I built this business and then almost was trapped in it. And there wasn't looking like there was a lot of different ways for me to get out of that, as I was being affected truly by burnout and not really knowing how to go or pivot the business or whatever. I got lucky. I had somebody that was already going to build a different business, build a gym, and then they ended up buying mine instead. And I had an exit plan. But never mind CrossFit gyms. I can't tell you how many small business owners I've talked to who feel 100% chained to their business with no exit strategy. And it's their own doing, whether they meant to or not. And it feels much, much more like a chore and something they do not want to be part of, despite the fact that they were the ones that initiated. So I just want to call that out. It's so vital. If you're going to be you plus one other plus some plus AI, you may not have a desire to build the next $1 billion company. You're not trying to be WhatsApp or whatever, who went to $21 billion valuation with 50 people, right? That may not be your goal. You may not want to be something like that. You might want to build something that really is 2 hours a week that gets you to a livable income that allows you to travel the world if that's what you wanted to do. So I just think it's really, really important that you said that, because the assumption shouldn't be that everybody wants to do this for 40 hours a week. Who wants to do that? So it's an important point. So anyway, Carl,
I want to hear what Carl's actual lived experience is of being possessed of AIs to support his business. But what does it really take to operate such a business and grow it, on a day-to-day basis?
I think the one thing I just wanted to mention there is just going off what Junmi was saying, it is hard to quote unquote unplug yourself. Like if you run the kind of business that we run, and especially if we implement, right? The tough thing is when and luckily the companies we work with aren't there yet, where they are literally taking our AI pilots, solutions, tools, and necessarily making it business critical. Like they haven't actually what we're going to do? We're going to pivot our entire structure around this, because that makes it a little bit harder. Let's take a website, for example, right? So let's say you have a marketing agency or web design agency or whoever that has developed your website. Let's say, and it happens a lot, website doesn't work, website goes down, especially on whatever moments that you need it up. And what do you normally do? You call the agency or the design team or the designer, like, hey, our website needs up, and this can't be, I can't wait for you to come back like a week later or 2 days later. I need it now. So I haven't seen any business critical functions where the AI actually is, if it goes down, like from a client perspective, their business will still run. Mm-hmm. Chatbot goes down, no problems. The website's still up. No, everything's okay with that. But it's when you start going into those elements, I think when we've talked about an agent overseeing other agents. And sure, they can go 24/7, but what if some of those agents aren't working and your main agent can't fix it, so it just keeps running? But that specific function or workflow doesn't work, but it needs to work. So what happens then? And you're, I don't know, vacationing somewhere, going camping somewhere, right? That, I think that's where it starts becoming a little difficult, really difficult to.
Let me paint a picture of what the agent network looks like in a full scale operating company. So I had it divided across the two co-founders, and it breaks up pretty nicely, kind of front facing long term for the CEO founder. I take that role. And then for the technical co-founder, a lot of operations and support and development functions. So here's the agents. The strategy agent, we've played with building these. Financial management agent, right? It's doing accounting and financial reporting and financial analysis. Tax preparation, all of those things, do those things. There's a calendar that has to be met. Regulatory agencies have to be handled with compliance and so on. So that agent, the CEO has to be watching after that one carefully to make sure it hits all the marks. Then you have sales and marketing agents. Those are slightly different functions, but those are the ones that are going to be important to revenue generation. And so the CEO founder is going to take care of those agents. And then there's the legal agent. Every contract, every submission, to responses to legal demands from other companies, cease and desist letters, etc. All of those things, and then cash and investment and investor relations. All of that side of the thing is something that the CEO would typically take care of. So there's a special agent for that. But investors aren't going to want to talk to the AI that you have running that piece of it. They're going to want to talk to you personally. So there's a lot of demands there on that one individual. So then the technical co-founder has the following agents: development for every other agent, right? So that person's got to manage that one agent to create all the other agents, including these other agents that they're going to operate and manage. The operations agent, workflows, supply chain management, quality assurance processes. Then there's the support agent. This is handling the automated side of customer relations, where people are just inquiring about it. So suppose it's an e-commerce business, for example, they're in continuous communication with those people. Many of those things have to be escalated to a human because they're just weird, right? They just don't fit the model of everything that the customer support agent has been trained to do. There's a data agent that's collecting and analyzing and visualizing business intelligence type stuff. And then there's security, right? So the security agents trying to maintain, resistance to hackability on your whole system, and a research agent. Now, I challenge anyone to think that they could manage all of those agents themselves, build them and manage them themselves, because, unless you've run a company and you realize that in general management, you're responsible for every function, it's really, really tough. So I'm not hoping that you can't do it, Junmi. I want you to do it.
Challenge accepted, Andy. The glove has been thrown. The gauntlet's out there. Let's go.
Remind me of Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother. Challenge accepted.
Don't worry, Andy. It'll be legend. Wait for it.
Yeah.
Dairy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wait for it. My wife and I've been rewatching that show lately on Netflix, and it's like Big Bang Theory. Your friends, you can go back to it anytime and it stands up. It's just a great show. Hey, I did want to bring up this article that is sort of like, by the way, this is mid-July or July rather of 2023. So not like a yesterday article in AI speak. But I did want to bring it up because I thought it was really fascinating. And there's a particular passage here that I wanted to share. So this is from NFX, the website NFX, which I don't know, but it's written by James Currier, who's a general partner. And it's this idea in July of 2023 the 3-person unicorn, which is in line with what we're sort of talking about, but 3 people. And so he does a really good job about this. But I wanted to read this part right here because he's talking about needing allometric scaling, which I guess is something that happens in biology. And it's like some things will grow bigger or smaller. But basically, you'll notice a lot of different ways that AI alters the relations between your company's size and its metabolism, growth, and heart rate. So listen to this part really quick. I'm going to read it out because I want people who aren't seeing the screen to hear this. Just a couple sentences. Some things won't change. Smaller teams will always move faster relative to the large teams, but other characteristics will be very different. The formula we use to calculate revenue per employee will change, for example. If you can have fewer people, every business operation gets easier. And if business elements get easier, you even need even fewer people. Fewer people means less of everything that isn't building and selling to customers. Fewer people means founders have fewer meetings, fewer disagreements, less politics, faster decision making, and faster experimentation. Fewer people means less recruiting, interviewing, hiring, onboarding, coaching, performance reviewing, culture building, dramatic departures, and firings. Fewer people means less office space, office roads, or squabbles. Fewer people means less salary spend, less fundraising time spent, less capital raised from VCs, and less dilution from the founders. This isn't far-fetched. If you recall, we've already seen this alternative allometric scaling in tech companies before AI. It was just isolated in a small but very visible way, niche of the tech world. And social media. Instagram had 12 employees when it sold for 1 billion. WhatsApp had 50 employees when it sold for 21 billion. So it goes on from there. I just love the way that was written. Less of this means less of this, and less of this means less of this. And I think it's just like it just seemed to fit so well with our conversation today of when you're talking about, you plus one other human and how that fits each of us individually. And we've all had, different answers here. What that may also mean for the company. And I just thought he did a really great job. It's a great article, by the way. It's not really even, I wouldn't even call it to be outdated. There's nothing in there from 2023. We're like, oh, well, he didn't know at that time that now this exists. So
Folks are asking for the link actually in the
yeah.
chat.
So, well, I'll send the link to you, Beth, and you can put it in the chat, but it's at nfx.com. And in the title of the article is 3-person unicorn startup. And I'm sure it will take you right there. But I'm sharing with Beth, and Beth can share with y'all directly to the link if you want it. Great article.
This is also a great time to say that if you would like to continue the conversation or have more details about the show, if you're listening to this afterwards and you can't find the link, join our community at dailyaishowcommunity.com. And the conversations are happening over there as well, and it is hopping. So
yeah, and that as well as joining the newsletter, because a lot of times these, like we'll share these links and make sure they go out in the newsletter. Both are great resources for you guys. If you want to join the newsletter, it goes out every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. and you can sign up by going to the dailyishow.com, and there's a link directly on there. But by all means, join the community. It's actually really, really cool to see everybody what they're sharing. Let's talk really quick about what we have coming up the rest of the week. And if anybody has any closing thoughts today, we'll wrap things up. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about forecasting the future, AI in weather predictions, which I'm excited about because I don't know that we've ever talked about weather and AI on this show, despite doing 440 plus shows. So that'll be fun. Wednesday is always the news, as you guys know. Thursday, we'll be talking about 7 AI rollout mistakes that sink your strategy. So that Thursday show is really kind of linked pretty well to today's discussion. And so you can almost think of Thursday as being sort of a continuation, not the same topic, but that one's going to be really good. So I see most companies don't fail at AI because of bad tech. They fail because they ignore the basics. So that's going to be a really interesting conversation for Thursday. And then Friday, we're doing our sort of second Be About It show. And our Be About It was one of our most popular shows that we've done in recent months. Had super high engagement on all the socials and YouTube and Spotify and all that. And really what we did on that show was we just showed you either what we or what other people are actually doing with AI, things they're building. It's either projects we're working on, we've shared, but we're going to be about it, meaning here's what's actually happening, not high theoretical stuff, less of what we're talking about today, where it's like, maybe this could happen. These are actually more grounded. This is what's going on right now. This is what we see going on or people are building that is super, super cool in AI that you can in turn use yourself for whatever your projects are. So that's the rest of this week coming up. Any last thoughts before we wrap this up for today?
So
No?
Jude made a point in
Sure.
the chat. No, I'm sorry, Justin made a point in the chat. Said early on that he was going to use a chef. He was going to have he was going to get a chef that was going to be his +1 so that he could eat great food while he was running his business. And the idea that AI could also be embodied AI didn't really come up in this part of the conversation, but I do think it adds like an extra challenge level. So if you're listening to this, you're doing your own thought experiment. Does having embodied AI and a robot that could do things that a human could potentially do, does that change it for you? Where does that come in?
And real quick, if anyone who's in our community or wants to join the community, bring us your AI first business, and we'll keep track of, give us updates, and we will go along with the story with you and do updates on that, because I would love to follow anyone's journey through that process.
I thought you were going to say, bring your ideas to us and we'll run with them, but that's better. What you said is better.
And we could do that too. Or we should have, again, this should be March Madness again, bracketed, break it down. It's like, all right, community, we're all going to work on this project. I think that's a cool idea we could explore.
Not to get into the show, but that was one thing that I think maybe could be a future show, is this idea of like, we've all seen these like social media, houses where they bring in a whole bunch of social media people, and they like, or this idea of like putting a boy band together. What if the concept was like, maybe from a VC or whatever, you're like, no, we're actually going to try to like grab this person and build an AI plus AI, because we think these two people are the best fit for each other, and then like fund them. It was sort of like a Y Combinator, but like more like, instead of you coming with your people, this organization or whatever is there to actually place you based on maybe, I don't know, like a matching and whatever it is, or your business history. And I don't know, that's like a cool idea. Last thing I'm going to do is a quick tip of the cap to Justin as well, who had said earlier, how many firefighters are in control of a lance? I wasn't even going to get into that. I'm just going to say that's a great callback, a deep cut. Justin, tip of the cap to you for bringing that up, because I love that comment. And I was like, oh man, I want to talk about that so bad, but it wasn't. I didn't want to go off into firefighter land on the show today. So thank you, Justin. I appreciate you for doing that. That really shows people who truly have been listening to the show for a while. So that's awesome. All right, that's it. We're wrapping it up for today, guys. Have a wonderful day. Come back for the rest of the week. Like you heard, we have tons of great topics going on. As always, you can join the community. Like Beth said, dailyaishowcommunity.com will take you right to that page. It's at the top of the screen as well. Fantastic. And then you can, if you want to dig into the newsletter, we're getting awful close to our 50th edition, believe it or not, issue of that. So kind of crazy to think that I've put together almost 50 of these now. But come hang out and enjoy that as well. You just go to thedailyishow.com and you will see a link there for sign up for the newsletter. It's free, as you would imagine. And you just get it in your inbox every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. What could be better, right? All right, that's it for today, guys. Have a great day. We will see you tomorrow.
Aloha.
Hey, so that cut short likely means that we're doing the after show right here. So
Welcome to the after show.
happy Easter Monday, everybody. Hope you have a great time. We'll see you tomorrow.